Hi, and welcome to Complete and Cast, the official podcast of Complete and Box Video Games. This is episode 14, Crazy Castlevania, and we're joined today by our guest, Chris Klumpp. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Spencer. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, no problem at all. Now, if there would be one thing, or two things that you and I would agree on, it's one, cowboy hats are amazing.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
And two, Castlevania is awesome.
Castlevania is indeed awesome.
So we're here to have a love fest about Castlevania where we don't have any disagreeing opinions, and we just pretty much just go and say the same things over and over again, right?
Sure. That's how that's going to work. That's how it works when there's no mic.
It's just a love fest. So that's what it's going to be for, a half hour. So when we're looking at Castlevania, there are essentially two different parts of the timeline. There are the games that are pre-Symphony of the Night, which is the PlayStation 1 classic Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and there's the stuff that's post-Castlevania Symphony of the Night. In general, the old ones are the stuff you're familiar with on the Nintendo, Castlevania 1, 2, 3. They're generally just your standard, pretty much left to right, 2D side-scrollers. They have a unique feel to them. And then Castlevania Symphony of the Night, for you, those of you out there, really changed everything around. It made this huge map system where there was a ton of backtracking. If you ever played Super Metroid or Metroid, think Metroid. In fact,
Metroidvania.
One of the terms you can use for it is Metroidvania. And honestly, you can't disagree. It really much just copied off Super Metroid.
Pretty much.
So that you have that dividing line where Symphony's there, and then everything after that, for the most part, is Metroidvania. That I can't think of too many examples where they went back to the old school style.
Not many.
After Symphony. Let's get this question out of the way. Old school Castlevanias or new school?
Ooh, see, now I would say there's old school, new school, and newer school.
Explain.
But, Castlevania really took several big turns. Like you had said before, there was, the old school Castlevanias, platformers, and then Symphony came along, that changed everything, and then that kind of followed line until the Lords of Shadow era came out, and then that kind of took another right-hand turn.
What if we want to forget about that new era?
Hey, let's do that. I'm all about that, so I'm not a fan.
would you say it's different simply because it's 3D? Would you consider all the 3D games to go under that category?
Not necessarily. Well, maybe. Like, the 3D games really tried to do what God of War did, but not as well.
It didn't have that fluidity.
Exactly.
I think that's the word.
Yeah. Well, we'll say it.
Fluidity. There we go.
Fluidity. So I'm more that middle. I'm more the Metroidvania guy. I absolutely love like the Symphony of the Night, Aria of Sorrow, Dawn of Sorrow, Circle of the Moon. Like all those are like choice.
I gotta say, I'm surprised. I really thought your answer was gonna be old school. Now, I understand that they're all great games, so it's not like you'd be like, oh, this one's bad and this one's great.
Yeah.
But I thought you would be like, oh, nothing can get me, going better than Bloodlines for the Genesis or whatever. So you're more of like the Metroidvania.
Absolutely,
style.
absolutely. I do enjoy the old school ones, the more the platforming side scrollers. But damn, are they hard?
Would that be one of the main things that like takes you towards the Metroidvania? I mean, they have constant save points. In general, they are easier.
The constant save points in general, they're a little easier, yes, and the fact that they have more of an explorer concept to them, like you have to explore the whole map. There's multiple endings where not a lot of the old school Castlevanias had multiple endings, and there's just a ton of different options. The first Castlevania in America.
Oh my God! Okay.
No, we're not.
Podcast ended.
Yeah, no, we're not going
into.
Actually, haunted castle. No, I'm not even going that route. But the first Castlevania was punishingly hard. You can play through the whole game if you do it right. You can beat it start to finish in like 11 minutes.
So if I were to say, for speaking of the old school, the first Castlevania, the Hallway of Hell, do you know what I'm talking about?
Hallway of Hell, is that the one with the little... Oh, it's been so long. No.
There's a famous hallway that is super difficult right before you fight Death at the end. I think it's level 6-2, right? And it's the Hallway of Hell because if you die there, you have to start the thing over.
You're gonna start the whole thing over.
And otherwise, you have to go through this entire hallway where there's a bunch of Medusas and those guys that throw the crosses and stuff. But at the very end,
and those Medusas are nightmarish.
Is Death. which both literally and figuratively.
Yep.
And he's there, and you have to beat him. Now, after that, all there is Dracula, and you can try that over and over and over again. And who cares? It's 6-3, whatever. It's not a big deal. But
you have to get through that whole section before you even get. And Death is always a hard boss in every Castlevania he shows up in. And I think he's in almost every one of them.
So speaking of hard Castlevania games, and I have beaten Castlevania 1 before. It took me literally like all afternoon, which again, it should take you 10 minutes if you're good.
If you're really good, it should take you 10-15 minutes, but I'm not that good.
But if I may say, and let's just get this off on our chest right now, not only have I never beaten Castlevania 3, I have never even gotten close.
No, Castlevania 3 is
like
even harder.
It is the hardest Castlevania. I've beaten 1, 2, and 4 tons of times. I've beaten Bloodlines tons of times. I've beaten Symphony, and once we get there, it's a little bit, whatever. I've beaten the Game Boy one, Castlevania Adventures. I've never even gotten close to 3. Like, it is
3 is ridiculous.
It is brutal. It is absolutely insane.
I was at a wedding, and it was a wedding I had to travel to, so I had to stay overnight, and I woke up way earlier than everybody else, and I had the Castlevania 3 had just come out for the virtual console on the 3DS. So I picked it up, and I'm starting to play it. I haven't played it since I was a kid, and I'm like, oh man, this is hard. And I got stuck on fighting Alucard. So I'm like, no big deal, game facts, boom. Every single strat guide was literally just be better. Like there was no hints, there was no hope. It was just like,
well, it's like, what can they say in a game like that? How do I get past these Medusa heads? Avoid them.
Yeah, that's all they could say.
Thank you.
How do you beat Alucard? You just do.
That's a game where you like look for the speed run on YouTube and you try to get just a rough idea of what they're doing and just be like, I can kind of emulate that.
Yeah, I'll just copy that. That's all I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I had to get that off my chest because I've like it's been a long time since I tried, but I know I would not do it.
Yeah,
like it's just so brutal. The branching past everything.
Castlevania 3 is a high water mark of just like, screw you, fans.
It's so difficult.
You thought you were gonna have fun.
So speaking of high water marks, oh, you gotta love my segues on this podcast.
Nice,
they are fantastic. What is your favorite Castlevania game?
Okay.
Folks, I gave him the questions ahead of time.
Yep.
He had time to think.
And I still had a hard time with this. So, all right. There's a big difference between my favorite Castlevania and the best Castlevania. So my favorite is Symphony.
Okay.
And this is going to be controversial because I know people get pissed at me when I say this. Symphony's not the best Castlevania.
Okay.
But it's my favorite. It's the one that I started playing where I got really hooked on Castlevania. Before that, I had played a few of them. My first one was Castlevania 2. And why I kept playing Castlevania is beyond me, because 2's the worst. I played Castlevania 2 with the original translation, like the English translation, which is just no help there.
It is no help.
And then I played Castlevania 4, which I enjoyed, but then jumped right to Symphony, and that's when I got hooked. So yeah, Symphony's my absolute favorite.
What would be the best then?
I would say Dawn of Sorrow.
And that is a DS one. Is that the
first one for DS?
Yep. Okay. What? So now, I will say the Game Boy Advance and the DS ones, I'm a little bit like I know what they are, but I don't know what makes one good or the other, bad. What's so great about Dawn of Sorrow?
Dawn of Sorrow took the idea of Symphony of the Night, the whole Metroidvania aspect, and improved on it. Because in Symphony of the Night, there's a ton of backtracking, but there's really no point to the backtracking. You're just killing these monsters over and over and over again. And then Aria of Sorrow came out, which is the last one they made for the Game Boy Advance. And they added a soul stealing aspect where every time you killed a monster, you had a chance to steal its soul and then you gained its power. In Dawn of Sorrow, they took it a step further where you captured the soul of the creature and then you could stop at a shop and use those souls, because you capture a ton of them, and use them to make different weapons that you couldn't get in the game otherwise. And so then it
farming
added,
for souls.
Exactly. So it actually made it meaning, like it actually gave it some purpose as to why you were backtracking so much compared to Castlevania, where it's like, well, I'm in the alchemist laboratory again. It's the 5th time I'm here and I'm just killing these skeletons and I'm tired of it.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I briefly remember the souls part of that, and you can collect them and get like different numbers of them and everything. Very interesting. Now, I will say this isn't part of my questionnaire, but this is just a personal opinion for me. If we're going to talk the most underrated Castlevania, you mentioned the Game Boy Advance ones. I think Circle of the Moon is a fantastic mix that like it's like Symphony of the Night is a little more in the Metroidvania kind of thing. I think Circle of the Moon hits the old school Castlevanias a little bit more.
Oh,
although it
absolutely.
is Metroidvania and has the big map, it feels more old schooly.
It feels more old school because you have to collect things to actually be able to do stuff. Like your character starts out, he can't run,
Right.
he can barely use a
right.
whip. The whip sucks. And I mean, let's be honest. In the first couple,
You're essentially
Castlevanias,
you're a terrible person when you start. You're
oh,
like,
absolutely.
How
yeah.
do I
do
swim?
anything? And then you have to kind of gain things. And then that whole card system that they did, where you collect cards and you can change them out and do different powers with the cards.
Interestingly, Trevor did a run through of that, and there are like some really big like glitches you can do with that.
Oh yeah.
And this is a subject for another thing. I think glitches, if they happen like in game without trying them, they're a glitch. But if you like purposefully do it, I don't think it's like a bad programming. It's just you're purposefully trying to mess the game.
Yeah, you're
you
breaking.
You can make it like super crazy, where you're just constantly like a walking death machine, where
Yep.
you're just like you
Yep.
touch something and it's like, bah, I'm
Yep,
dead. You know, and
exactly.
you're like, cool. So
And
Trevor
Circle of
showed
the
that
Moon
off.
also feels very old school because it's hard as shit.
It is very hard.
It's probably the hardest.
It has
of
like
the...
a pretty decent level cap, and like it's one of those weird games you'll find yourself beating it only at level like 25 or 30 or something like that.
And you're gonna work for it.
Right,
You're gonna work hard
for
for it.
So that's that is I always found that underrated. So out of the main series that's not a joke, aka Castlevania Judgment, the Wii fighting game, do you have a least favorite one?
My least favorite Castlevania was that I actually tried to that I had a lot of hope for was Lords of Shadow, the first one for.
And you really disliked it.
I had a hard time with it. I remember buying it. I took off work. I took it home. I remember I bought it the same day I bought Kirby's Epic Yarn, I think it was called.
And that game ended up being very fun.
That game's I ended up putting in Castlevania first, playing for like 2 hours, and be like, all right, now let's put in some Kirby.
It just for Lords of Shadow just kept going. It was so long,
yeah.
And there was like what makes God of War games so good? Because clearly they emulated God of War.
Absolutely.
It's that God of War games aren't very long. Like it's like an action movie. Like if you were like, hey, let's watch a new Rambo. And I'd be like, cool. And you'd be like, it's 3.5 hours. I'd be like, no. Because
Exactly.
it's just like something like that. Like you don't like the new Transformers movie is 5 hours long. No, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. No, I don't want it. I
Exactly.
don't want to see it. So like that's what it was. It's like an action game. It seemed fun on the action. It has the God of War style, but like you're like at level like 7, and like you look at the map and it's like I'm 1/80th there.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, dude, this isn't that kind of game. It's not Dragon Warrior. It's like it's like. It's an action game.
Plus, it's the kind of game that if you try just to play linear, you will never beat it because you have to go back, you have to get the secrets, you have to get the experience to build up your moves, to get the different combos. So, like, you can sink a ton of time into that game, and it's not Elder Scrolls. You're not supposed to be sinking this kind of time into a game. So, yeah, that would be my least favorite Castlevania.
I can't disagree with you, although clearly a lot of people say Castlevania 2 because it's very confusing. I can't blame them. It's the bastard child. It is what it is. And Castlevania 64 because I would never say Castlevania 64 is like the worst because they tried. They really tried.
They really tried.
I mean, they failed, but they really tried to create something. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I can agree with you just because it has so much potential. You're like, oh, this game could be pretty good. It's whatever. It shows. I think it shows spoilers how like. Dracula becomes to be or something like that. Something.
In the 64 one?
No, in Castlevania Lords of Shadow.
Oh, in Lords of Shadow, absolutely.
And then like 2, you're like Dracula and whatever, but like no one cared because Lords of Shadow 1 wasn't great and whatever. So I can't disagree with you on that. Now, are there any Castlevania games that you haven't played? Main series, non-main series? I mentioned Castlevania Judgment. I know it's a fighting game that exists. I never played it.
Judgment's the only one I haven't played that was released in America. I bought it for like $5, still wrapped. They were desperate to get rid of it.
It's still wrapped to this day.
It's still wrapped. It's sitting. I don't even know where it is. It's chilling with the rest of my Castlevania collection, which is on display, and I think it's towards the back.
Have you done the 3DS Lords of Shadow?
Shadow, was it Mask of something?
Mirror of Fate or
Mirror of
something
Fate.
like
That's
that?
what. Yes, I have played it. I played it because somebody told me that it would make, if I played it, Lords of Shadow 2 would make sense. They were wrong. It is also not very much fun, and it is remarkably confusing. There are cutscenes in that game where like it reveals a character, and I had to go online and look up this character, who this was. And I'm the kind of guy that I would just read about Castlevania when I couldn't play it, so I knew all the characters. and there were a big reveal, and I'm like, who is that?
So, you know, the funny thing about that, and this happens all the time, it's there's a word for it where you're on Wikipedia and you just keep going to Wikipediaing or whatever.
Yep.
So it's like, it's one of those things, you're playing this game and you're like, I'm going to look at the Castlevania wiki, and like you start reading and you're like, wow, reading this is so much more fun than playing this game.
Absolutely. That's why I put the game down.
You put the game down and you're like, oh, this Castlevania is so like interesting. Like, wow.
Yep.
There's a game to play. Oh.
Yeah.
And then you go back and it's like a chore. You're like, I wish I was reading more Castlevania history.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that one's pretty rough too. Any of the Lords of Shadow.
So yeah, and it's such a shame that the last Castlevania game, I mean, unless, because Konami does not make video games anymore.
Konami's done with them.
The last Castlevania game to ever come out is going to be Lords of Shadow 2.
Yep.
And that's what it is.
Unless we get the Pachinko Castlevania arcade game that they released in Japan.
I would play it. Pachinko looks pretty fun.
I'd play it.
I will say I would get the biggest pair of earplugs in the entire world if I went to a Pachinko place. Like, have you ever seen videos of that? It's just like,
oh yeah,
and it's like, and there's just people sitting there and they're like talking. They're like, what's up?
Yeah, like it's nothing. And
it's like going to a concert and being like, how are you?
Yeah, I'm going to have a conversation with you over this incredibly loud...
Hey, so what about what blah, blah, blah said? Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like...
You're just dumping money into this machine.
I can't. I mean, it looks fun. It also looks like it is, like, no effort. They're just like...
Oh, it's super addictive
They're like quarter or whatever, and you just sit there. Oh, I lost. Great. Let me do this again.
Yep.
So one of the things that I like about Castlevania is it's been around for so long. The first game was out in 85.
I believe 86.
86.
I believe 86.
And it just has a really rich history.
Absolutely.
So one of my favorite stories about Castlevania is so originally for the 64 you had Castlevania 64, and universally, even back then, people didn't like it.
Nope.
You know, it was not really good. So a couple years later, Konami came out with Castlevania Legacy of Darkness.
Yep.
Which is technically
it's
the same. So
it's kind of the same game.
A game nowadays, right? You have, and we'll get into this next episode. You have Fallout 3,
Yep.
and then you have Fallout 3 Game of the Year. It's not the same game, but it's like some stuff might be improved and some stuff might be added. This might be the first like reworking / Game of the Year game to come out on a console ever, because Castlevania Legacy of Darkness, and yes, it's pretty rare nowadays and whatever, is a majority of it is Castlevania 64.
Pretty much.
So if you got Castlevania 64 and Legacy of Darkness, you'd be like, man, this seems familiar.
Yeah.
They add some stuff in the beginning, like you don't start at the very same place in the beginning.
Yeah, you start on a ship, I think.
They add some stuff in the end, and they try to rework the camera and stuff like that. But you're gonna get a couple levels in, and you'll be like, huh.
Yeah, because
this
it looks
seems pretty familiar. Yep. And then you'll keep going, and you'll be like, did I play this game? Because you technically did.
Yep.
So literally, that was one of the first cases where they were like, sorry guys, our bad.
But it was also a case where
here's like a new $60 version of it. It's not just like, let's fix this. Like, you can't like that's an example. They would patch it. Like if Castlevania 64 came out on the PS4, they would patch it and you would have Legacy of Darkness.
Exactly.
So I always found that story to be just like super interesting. Like I didn't know about it. I had C64. I never had Legacy of Darkness till I was much older, and then in playing it I was like, what the hell is this game?
It's DLC before DLC was even a thing.
It's a patch, it's DLC, it's everything all in one, and it's like, wow, and it actually does make the game, like, more playable.
Yeah.
It's not good.
It's still not great.
It's not great, but it's, like, more playable.
At least you're not fighting that camera at the same time that you're fighting skeletons.
They did work out the camera a little bit. So, with that being said, do you have any interesting, like, Castlevania stories or something along, like, the stuff you have read about or anything like that?
Like, a personal experience of mine, when I first got into Symphony of the Night, I started playing it. I stole a copy from a buddy of mine who I still have that copy. It's a Black Bar PlayStation 1.
Don't listen, Chris's bud.
Oh, I haven't talked to him since high school. So yeah,
wait till you get an email.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Lamont calls me. Hey, Chris, listen, I want my Castlevania back. So I start playing it, and I'm like, I don't know, 15 years old, something like that, maybe 16, and like, kids back in the day, the internet was a lot harder to get your hands on.
Oh,
and
boy.
It kind of sucked, and Google wasn't really a thing, and all you could do is go to GameFAQs and pray to God you could find something that was well written, which almost never happened. So I'm playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and I'm getting stuck in a few places. So I call up this ex-girlfriend of mine she was the only person I knew who had a computer, the internet, and a printer,
dude,
which nobody had.
I have to say something real quick. One day, I mean, we're old already. We're old men, both physically and inside, like mentally. We're old men. That's just how we act. But one day, we're going to be really old men, and we're going to tell these stories, and we're going to sound like crazy as hell. Like, we're going to be like, dude, I had to go down the street to like access the internet, and literally no one like 20 years younger than us will believe us. They'll be like, "What are you talking?
What do you mean?
No,
the internet's everywhere. It's all over. Like, don't you have a phone? No, none of us had cell phones back then.
Don't you have the control panel on your house that tells you whatever you need? But like literally, like I just thought about that. Like it's gonna be so weird. Like it would be just like my dad like was like, oh, we didn't have a TV like until I was like 15, and then they had like 2 channels, and like I can get it, but I'm just like, oh, that
conceptually
sucks.
It makes sense.
I understand.
You can't imagine.
I understand, but I'm like, that sucks. And it's like it's like, what's on channel 2? I don't know. It's on channel 3. I don't know. Let's turn it off. That's it.
Turn it off and do something else. Yeah. So back in the olden days, if you knew somebody with the internet, a computer and the internet and a printer,
they were your best friends.
They were your best friends. So that's why I still kept in touch with this chick, even though I dumped her.
Hey, what's up, girl? You got that internet?
So I call her up and I'm like, yo, Jen, how you doing? Listen,
bad.
I need you to do me a favor, and I need you to print out the strategy guide for
like 70 pages.
No lie, dude. It was close to 200 pages.
Oh my god!
Because again, she didn't like. Back in the day, there were no programs to make it so that you could do both sides of a page.
Right.
So I have this this incredibly thick tome of printed of like the strategy guide for Symphony of the Night, but it was the Japanese Symphony of the Night. So I'm like, why can't I get this one familiar that doesn't exist in this game and all that stuff?
Hey, girl, can you reprint that? So you can flip the paper around. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
She must have spent like a lot. She had to spend a lot of money because you're talking reams of paper and toner.
Oh man,
and
back then there wasn't like a cheap way to get like.
Oh no,
it was just like everywhere was crazy.
Yeah. Oh, you want a cartridge? $60. Like, so that's my Castlevania story of making an ex-girlfriend print out an entire strat guide.
I don't have one nearly as good as that, but do you still have that, or did you get rid of it?
I think my parents have it somewhere locked in some.
Yo, mom.
Yeah. Every year, my dad calls me up. Hey, we have more of your crap here. Come pick it up. And I think it's probably in one of those boxes.
You should like bring it home one day and just like go to your wife and she'll be like, "What's that?" And be like, "Oh, it's from a love long."
Are you kidding me? If I find that, I'm going to see how much it's worth at CIB. I'm going to take it in and trade it in.
Just like bind it just a little bit and be like, this is for the Japanese version.
Yep. Just bring that in and see how much store credit I can get.
So I'm guessing Symphony is your most played Castlevania game by far, or?
No, I would say Dawn of Sorrow.
Dawn of Sorrow?
Because that was portable, baby. I could take that everywhere.
That's true. You didn't have to sit in there.
Now, the most purchased game Castlevania-wise is Symphony of the Night. I bought that on...
Just keep purchasing it?
I just kept buying it. Like, I bought it for PlayStation, and then it came out for...
Remember the PSP one? It was Dracula X something or other, and then it had Symphony of the Night as well?
I bought that specifically, and I had your... If I remember correctly, I had your brother, because I was, like, too busy to beat the Dracula X part to unlock it. So I think I paid your brother to do it for me. So I was like, here, you do this. I'm too busy. And then he gave it back to me, and he's like, all right, now you can play. So I got it on that. And then it came out on the PlayStation Network, and I bought it on that. So I have it on several different formats.
Oh my gosh. And I will say for my particular one, just to, because I have an opinion too, people out there in YouTube land, okay? Just get over it. So this is my opinion, and you're gonna have to.
You're sitting through this.
I was when we came into this, I thought you were gonna go and say Castlevania 4. It's the perfect one because it is. Because Castlevania 4. Listen, it is. I'm still about the old school, and Trevor and you and a lot of people will disagree with me, but the old school and like even the hardness and stuff like that, I'm just into it. And Castlevania 4 is a mixture of not too easy, not too hard. You have the perfect control and feel. I think it's Simon you play as.
Yep, you do play as Simon.
I think it's technically like a retelling.
It's a remake
of the first one. Right. They only got 4 games in, and they're like, let's just remake
Super Castlevania. Let's just do it again.
But the simple fact that like the SNES controller first of all is almost perfect. It's just great for like
I
what
will
it was.
agree with you there.
And you have
SNES,
you have the R button for using like your like daggers and stuff like that, and just in general that whip that you can do it all 8 directions. I cannot.
There's where it falls apart for me.
They came out. What?
There's where it falls apart for me.
That is the part that makes it perfect.
No, see,
the part that you can let it dangle and do it down and whatever.
See, that just makes it too easy. It's like playing with cheat codes, son.
Then I can.
Perfect Castlevania, in my opinion, like the perfect of the old school, is still the first. If you're talking before they went to Metroidvania, like they hit it hard with the first one, because in my opinion, you like a lot of people forget that at that time in gaming, platformers were like they ruled everything, and the greatest platformer of them all was Mario. Like that was just how it was. Super Mario Brothers was it. Everybody played it. Castlevania, when it first came out, was so drastically different from Mario Brothers because you can't jump on their heads, you die. You can't just hit A to jump. You have to time it perfectly, or else you die. The whip action, if you hit the whip action, there's a delay.
Little bit of a delay.
There's a delay,
right.
and you got to get used to that. And what made or broke you in that game was your sub weapons. You lived by your sub weapons. The whip was
you
like
don't have the cross go away.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
You have,
Basically,
like, the dagger, you're like,
basically, if you got the ×3 cross, it was like, dude, I'm done. I'm not getting anything else.
And actually, that brings a good point, because I've talked to a lot of people that have said that Castlevania 4, the simple fact that you have such control over the whip, means that it doesn't really matter what your sub-weapon is. And I would definitely agree with that. Like, obviously, the cross is still the best. It always is.
Oh, always is.
But it's like, if you fight a boss and you don't have the preferred sub-weapon, you're like, whatever, I'll beat it. Like, it'll be hard. It's a hard game, don't get me wrong, but you'll, like, still beat it. So, I've heard that people say that because of that, and because the control is so controlled, that it's like a little too,
but again,
like, whatever.
We're arguing about masterpieces. Like, both games are masterpieces. It's not like I'm saying like, oh, Castlevania 4 is terrible because it's so good and fun and enjoyable. Like, no, Castlevania 4 is a masterpiece. I just think that the first one is more of a masterpiece.
Do you have any particular like accomplishments when it comes to something Castlevania related? Like, I did this. Mine would be, I beat Castlevania 1. I mean, it took a really long time, but like I'm an adult in 2016. I have no patience for anything. Right. Like something goes wrong and I'm like, next. Like, but I like took my time and I beat it. And it took forever and I was like, I beat it, kind of thing.
When I figured out how to beat Dracula in Symphony of the Night in under 15 seconds. That and again, nowadays you just go online, you can see these videos, they're everywhere. Like, this is not a secret. But back then, I didn't have the internet. YouTube did not exist.
When you figured that stuff out yourself,
I was just like, yeah.
You were like literally like calling up not your friend, but your friend's parents' house. Hey, is Justin there? Is Justin
exactly.
there? Is Justin there? Yeah, Justin.
Yep. Wait 5 minutes.
Dude, come over.
Dude, I just beat Dracula in Symphony of the Night. Yeah, way to go. No, dude, I did it in 15 seconds.
I'm on the way.
Yeah, I gotta see how you did this. And basically what I did was, in Symphony of the Night, you can figure out different armor and weapon combinations to really make the game a lot easier. And one of them you get is called the Shield Rod. And when you hit the Shield Rod at the same time as a shield, depending on which shield you use, there's a different effect. And if you have the Alucard shield with a shield rod, the Alucard shield becomes like this death-dealing machine. And all you have to do is wait for Dracula to show up, hit the shield rod, put the shield out, and then he's dead.
I think I remember seeing that now. It's just like it goes through so fast.
Yeah. And like I said, nowadays this is not a secret. But when I was 16, I was like, "Oh crap, this is amazing!"
So we're 4 or 5 years into. I didn't even have this question written down, and I don't even care if we're going over time because this is fun. So we're 4 or 5 years into speedruns becoming very, very popular. Right. Now, I want to point out that I used to watch them when you had to download them off speeddemosarchive.com.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to point out that we're the OGs when it comes to that. So I used to consider buying the DVDs. Like, this is like 2005, 2006, whatever, 7. And you're like, I want to buy the DVDs that has like these 6 games or whatever. So even though this has still been going on, do you still sometimes get blown away at how easily and fast these people can beat these games?
Oh, absolutely. I sat down and watched somebody do a speedrun of the original Castlevania. And I'm like, how hard can it be? And I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, wow.
It's like perfect timing.
Incredible.
It's like perfect timing. And
it's absolute perfect timing. And I mean, if you haven't played Castlevania 1, it's not hard to find. I guarantee you, Completed Box has several copies.
Probably.
And it's a game really worth revisiting. Go out, pick it up, emulate it, however you want to do it. But when you get to any level with a Medusa head, I challenge you not to throw your controller into your neighbor's house, because you're going to hurl that thing through a wall
tough.
or a window.
And the interesting thing about watching those old school speed runs is when you're watching it, it doesn't look that impressive. Like if you watch a really fast game, like say a God of War or whatever, where there's a lot of stuff going on, even though it might be as simple when it comes to the button presses, you're like, oh my god, there's like, I could imagine a speed run of like Jet Grind Radio and you'd be like, I don't even know what's happening. But like watching something like that, there's not that much moving pieces. So you're like, how hard could it be to like, but it's like literally like you have to press it like right there, or else you're missing your jump, and it just is what it is.
And once you get, and especially in the first Castlevania, once you screw up once, you're going to cascade, and it's going to be bad
into the depths of hell.
Yeah, it's going to be bad.
So
quick.
I want to go into the Castlevania timeline real quick, but I do have to ask you one simple question before we skip a bunch of other questions. In Castlevania Bloodlines, are you picking John Morris, the whip guy, or Eric Lecard, the spear guy? This is an important question, and we may end right now, depending on your answer.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. It's John Morris, baby. I'm going to be honest. You're talking to a guy who owns several bull whips.
All right.
Like I personally I've been stopped by the police because I'm bullwhipping in a park. Like, yeah, you're talking to a guy who's obsessed with bull whips.
So you never played with spear guy?
Oh no, I totally played with Lecard.
Don't you like that like jump that he has where he can like go, like and then like jump real high or whatever?
Sure, yeah, that's cool.
But it'll never do the whip.
Whips, man, whips.
All right, Indy, that's fine. So, all right, Castlevania timeline. Now, let me preface everyone by saying it is a thing.
Yeah, and it's really messed up.
That's all I have to say. So, a lot of long-standing franchises, although they don't mean to start out that way, end up with a timeline. So, like, it's not like when they made Castlevania 1, 2, and 3, they were like, this one takes place in 1099, whatever. But, like, you look at Legend of Zelda, they tried to retcon it a couple years ago and be like, actually, there's a timeline. So, Legend of Zelda's is very complicated because of things. Like, we don't need to go into it. So, Castlevania's, though, for the most part, is just a line. It's a timeline. Like, I mean, it has a beginning, it has an end. I think there's, like, one or two, like, if this happened or whatever. I guess my question is, do you like when long-running franchises like Castlevania try to put everything in one coherent timeline?
The way Castlevania did it, I appreciated it, because how it based, from what I understand, and I don't know that this is all 100% fact, but from what I understand, Konami hired a guy, I can't remember his name, to save my life, and he went through all of the games and kind of handpicked, all right, these games count, these games don't. And then the games that don't, he said, these are still fine games, like Circle of the Moon is not canon anymore. They took that out.
I didn't know that.
They took out Bloodlines because it doesn't make sense.
Is this recently this happened?
No, this happened right around the time that...
Because I remember checking out, there's like a Castlevania wiki has a timeline, but I don't know if it's official or not.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
The official Konami timeline, I forget what year this all went down. It would have been around the time after Dawn of Sorrow came out. The company just went through and started picking games out and saying, like, well, this game is no longer canon. This game doesn't count anymore. We're going to take this game out because the timeline doesn't make sense. And
if you have all these things,
they really had a problem because Dracula only comes back every 100 years, except in Symphony where Shaft brings him back. But it's like, all right, that means we can only have so many games because we have a hard start.
It starts in like 1099 or something like that. Something around
like
1060,
that with Castlevania Legends is at that time. I thought
the PS2 one, Lament of Innocence, was the first one.
They retconned that.
Oh.
Castlevania Legends was
for the Game Boy.
First one.
The first one.
Is the first one where you meet Sonia Belmont and she gets her powers from someone who you think is Alucard, but you're not quite sure. So that
was this gripping Game Boy storyline.
Yeah, with a gripping Game Boy storyline. And then that got taken out. That's no longer canon. And the first one for PlayStation 2, that one became canon.
I think Lament
of
of Innocence. The names get confusing sometimes.
It's something of something.
Blank of blank. Yeah, exactly.
Musical reference of something. That's what it always
Rhapsody in Blue. Wait, no.
I'm guaranteed it's Castlevania Rhapsody in Death.
If they would have kept going, it would have happened eventually.
So the way they did it, I did appreciate that. But when you start getting into some stuff, like when you have so many games, it's really hard. I mean, we're going to talk about it in the next episode, but with Fallout, it's pretty easy. There's like 5 or 6 games total. 7 if you count Wastelands, but nobody does. But with like Castlevania, there's so many games, or even Zelda, there's so many more games with Zelda. Like, how do you make a coherent storyline with that many games? It's
tough, and in the Zelda one, I don't think they give like dates, whereas in Castlevania they try to make it like historic. In the year 2080 or whatever.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, Symphony of the Night takes place in 1795 or something like that.
I do really like seeing, and the other thing that makes it really difficult is sometimes there are games that have the same person, like Simon Belmont is in Castlevania 1 and 2, so I mean you can't make Castlevania 2 that much longer. You can't be like, exactly. Well, Castlevania 2 is 100 years. Nope, it's not. Nope. It's not.
Castlevania 2 takes place right after 1, and then Castlevania, like, and they've also remade the first Castlevania so many times, where it's like, well, Chronicles doesn't count because it's technically
I think there's a Rebirth one. Like, doesn't count.
That doesn't count. There's a ton of them, and it's like,
I always found that interesting, and I do like when you get to the ones. A lot of the DS ones take place like present day or in the near future.
In the near future,
and it's just funny, and it's like it's like in the Castlevania 3, it's like 1600s. It's like everything's like all medieval and whatever, and then it's like new, and it's like you read the story about Dawn of Sorrow. I think is the newest one in the series, and it's like Japanese schoolboy, blah blah blah, and you're like, I'm in. It's 2020, and there's a Japanese schoolboy, Soma Belmont, like whatever, like. Takes a break off a class, and it's like, okay.
And then that's the one where like, wait, I thought Castlevania, the castle actually is in Transylvania. Like, it's in the sun. It's in an eclipse. Because it makes sense this time.
I did find that interesting, and it's interesting to just look at like when they try to put it's like. I don't know why, I never, unless I would have looked this up, would have been like, oh, clearly Castlevania 3 is the prequel to Castlevania 1. It takes place like 100 years before. It's Trevor who's like the ancestor, and like you never would put that together unless you like read it. And maybe it's in the
it's in the instruction manual,
whatever, but it's like, who read that? You know
exactly.
I mean? So we're gonna draw this to a close, and I do want to ask just a couple more really quick questions. First of all, we mentioned this really quick. Moment of silence for Castlevania series. It's done. Lords of Shadow 2 was the last one. I do want to point out specifically Lords of Shadow 2 was the last one, but this isn't as bad as one of my favorite series, Silent Hill. Where the very you know what the very last Silent Hill game is?
I can't remember what it was called, but I remember it was bad.
It's called Book of Memories, and it's on the PlayStation Vita, and it is get ready for this because it could have been good. It is a very poorly made, almost Diablo / Smash TV kind of clone thing going on there. So it's like pure action. It has nothing to do with anything. By the way, I just want to point this out. I know this is all Konami all the time. I kind of liked the first Silent Hill movie. Like, it was okay. It bastardized everything I love, but sometimes you gotta just give it whatever. I hated the second one. Like, nothing happened. Like, there was no story. I remember watching it and like, yes, again, I'm an adult in 2016. I don't pay attention to anything, but I paid attention to that one. And at the end I was like, I'm sorry, it's over. Like it has like a 65-minute run time for a major movie.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'm sorry.
It doesn't even hit the 80-minute mark.
What? You know what I mean? And it's like, I get it. It's like whatever, but like, yeah, just.
Oh, I'm waiting for the Castlevania movie because they've been no lie, they've been trying for years, like nearly a decade now. At one point, Jonathan Frakes of Star Trek TNG fame was slotted to direct it. Guys, let me talk about Star Trek here.
I'm gonna go take a nap 2 hours later, and that's why.
All right, that's my synopsis of season 1. Moving on to season 2. No, but seriously, they've been trying to make a Castlevania movie for years, and I'm like, I don't want it to happen because I love Castlevania so much, and I know it's going to be crap.
There's some series that I could see, like even Assassin's Creed's coming out soon. Let's date ourselves on this issue. It's coming out soon. But at least Assassin's Creed is about like history, and you have long periods of time, and you can shoehorn a crappy movie out of it. But like Castlevania, like what was it going to be like a Van Helsing kind of thing?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's going to be like who would you get for it?
Like you know what I would rather? You know what I would rather have? Like a Van Helsing, like a Van Helsing. Just do that. It's fine. So all right, so it's dead, and it's probably not coming back. And I wish maybe Konami would sell the rights to a good company, but then let's try to remember if there's a good video game company out there anymore that can make it.
I doubt it.
So If the series were brought back, let's talk in big ifs. What would you want to see?
Oh boy. See, this is the thing. I was thinking about this question a lot, and I honestly couldn't come up with much because I feel like Castlevania is a series that the gaming industry has moved beyond. Like they don't make games like this anymore.
If they do, they are indie games, which
absolutely.
are like
the indie market is definitely
which are cheap downloads, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The indie, and maybe that's what I'd like to see. Maybe a good somebody who's established in the indie world pick it up, maybe.
But could they afford? I don't know.
Konami's not going to let that cash cow go cheap. But honestly, I mean, games nowadays are put out. It's all about, like, if a Castlevania came out today, it would be like, all right, if you pre-order at GameStop, you're going to get this special classic skin of this Belmont. Or, Trevor Belmont's going to be playable, and here you'll get this whip. And, this level's going to be out for DLC in 6 months, and it's all going to be open world. And it's like, they don't make games like this anymore. I don't know if gamers have moved on. Like, there's no way to make a Castlevania multiplayer, which most major game companies want multiplayer for, to keep people going. They want to be able to do stuff online. You can't do any of that with a Castlevania. It's just like the first Castlevania is the perfect, or at least old school Castlevania is like the perfect platformer distilled down to its essence.
Right.
And they don't make games like that anymore. So I don't know what I would like to see, because I don't know who would do it. And I don't know how it would be done.
You brought a good point. There is actually one for the 360. I don't know if it's for PS3 as well. It's a download game where it's almost set up just like Symphony of the Night. I forget what it's called. It's blank of blank, I'm sure.
The Harmony of Despair or something like that.
And that one actually you can play like online with other people, like in this big... Now, for people who haven't seen this one, it's like Symphony of the Night, but imagine if every part of the stage was loaded at the same time. And you can just... you can make the map as big or small as you want and then go through it. So, but that doesn't feel like a full game. It doesn't feel like a full game.
It also loses something out of the whole Metroidvania feel. Like there's just something that doesn't feel right.
But being able to, I think it's being able to see the whole thing. That's the thing about Metroidvania. You're like, oh, look at this place. I'm in the library or whatever. Cool, new place. Like you can see it like right away. It's like there. So I guess the question of would you want to see it brought back is probably
absolutely
no.
Okay. Yeah, I mean you could pretty much title these next 2 episodes "Old Man Klumpp Shakes His Fist at Gaming," because I feel like
that's the thing.
Games were better when I was a kid.
That's the thing. I could actually see Silent Hill, one of my favorite series in the Konami series, brought back and made into a game.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, look at PT. It was a demo, but like, my God, like I could not play it. It was so scary. Like
I'm unfamiliar with PT.
So PT was the demo for the new Silent Hills game that was going to star Norman Reedus, and it was literally just an interactive demo to show you some ideas they had, and it was essentially, to break it down to like very simple thing, walking through the same room over and over again. Like you would like get to like the end, and like you would be in the same room.
Oh, I saw a video of this.
Right,
okay,
and just every time there would be something different and something you have to figure out, and it was just so frightening.
Yeah, I watched the video.
Like I played it, and I had to play literally with 3 other people. Like I could not, and like I could see Silent Hill being made into something like, God, with the VR or like
absolutely
great PS4 graphics with all this like beautiful like smog effects and stuff. I think you're right. I don't think I could see a Castlevania like if they made like a really like not cute but like beautiful like 2D kind of game. It would have to be an indie developer like making that. I just couldn't.
The only thing I could see them doing is if they took an already established Castlevania like Symphony of the Night and just reworked it with like, all right, we're gonna make an HD remake of Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
And like, that would actually
that would sell like gangbusters.
It would sell.
But it wouldn't add anything new to the game series.
Can you think of any developers you would trust to do this?
Not nowadays, unfortunately. Most AAA game developers, they don't have the passion that I want to see get put in. Like they wouldn't have the time to put the care into developing.
I mean, you make, like I said, you make a really good point. There's certain series I could see brought back quite easily. There's certain series that like fit, and there's Castlevania is like platformers nowadays are usually like very bright Rayman and Mario, and it just makes sense. You're playing it, and you can play with your kids, and you can play with your bud, and it's not like a hard time. But like Castlevania is like it has to have that like deep, thick feel, and you're not going to be like, oh, let's just have a romp through Castlevania. It's like no. But like I just could not see it being like, oh, the new Castlevania's out for whatever. If anything, it would be a 3D. Like, if they made it like the Fallout treatment and it was like, it's an open world Castlevania, why?
Why would you do that? What's the point of it? Exactly.
I can't see the point of it. It just does not feel right for the series.
No.
So.
Like I said, I think Castlevania is a series that is just of its time, and that time is past for gaming. Except maybe, like I said, maybe in the indie market, but that's about it.
That's a really good point. So we didn't really do the old man yells at games kind of thing.
You will next episode
because I feel well. Luckily, I have no opinion one way or the other, so I'm willing to hear the yelling
next
this time.
episode.
So listen, thank you guys very much. If you have any opinions that you want to put down there in the YouTube comment box, or you want to talk about how you think Castlevania should be brought back and here's why. Post it there, but then also email it to Konami.
That's right.
Send it to them. Maybe tweet it to them and email it and send it in the mail and just be like, hey, Konami, we got a cash cow for you. And we would very much thank you for it.
If I could, quickly...
Go ahead.
Plug my podcast.
Right.
I don't have a podcast anymore. But... For anybody you out there who like hearing what I have to say, I write stuff. So you can go read my, I write stories. So you can go read my stories at chrisklumpp.com. That's Klumpp with a K and 2 P's, because God decided no woman would take my name. So I'll put on that, chrisklumpp.com.
I'll put it in the bottom there as well. If you look down, you'll see it in the link bar.
Appreciate that.
All right, thank you guys once again for watching. Or listening. Restart!